All right, let's dive into one of the most fundamental stories in all of biology. It's the tale of two cells, the two basic blueprints that are used to build every single living thing on our planet. Yep, from you and me to the bacteria on your keyboard. Okay, I know it sounds like the setup for a really weird joke, right? You've got these tiny, invisible organisms on one side, and on the other, the biggest animal to have ever existed. What on earth could possibly connect them? And there you have it. The answer is cells. They are both made of the basic building blocks of life. But, and this is a huge but, this is where the story gets really good, because the type of cell they're made of represents this massive, profound split in the story of life itself. It is absolutely wild when you stop and think about it. I mean, look at this staggering, unbelievable diversity of life on Earth. And yet, it all boils down to just two fundamental designs. Two blueprints. That's it. You know, ever since Robert Hooke first looked through a microscope at a piece of cork, way back in 1665, we've been slowly peeling back the layers of this mystery. And what we found underneath all that complexity is a beautiful kind of simplicity. All of life fits into just two boxes, the prokaryotes and the eukaryotes. So what's the big deal? What is the one thing that splits the entire tree of life into these two giant branches? It's not about how big an organism is, or what it looks like, or even what it does. It all comes down to one thing: how the cell stores its most precious cargo, its DNA. And this, right here, gets straight to the heart of it. Look at the prokaryote. Its genetic material is just kind of floating around in the cell's jelly-like interior, called the cytoplasm. Now, look over at the eukaryote. See that? It has a dedicated, protected vault, a true nucleus that keeps its DNA safe and sound. This one difference, this single architectural choice, is the game changer that makes everything else possible. Okay, first up, let's get to know the original, the ancient and wildly successful prokaryote. I want you to think of it as the ultimate minimalist. It's simple, it's super efficient, and it is everywhere. So what's the prokaryote's whole deal? Well, for starters, they're the most ancient type of cell. They're all about that simple life. No fancy membrane-bound organelles, which are like tiny organs inside a cell. Their entire genetic blueprint is just one single circular chromosome. And to reproduce, they just split in two. It's a process called binary fission. Simple, fast, effective. This is the blueprint for all bacteria and archaea. Now, just because the DNA is floating around, it doesn't mean it's a total mess. It usually hangs out in a specific area called the nucleoid. But, and this is the key, the nucleoid is just a region. It's not a room with walls. There's no protective membrane around it. But hey, don't let that simplicity fool you for a second. This minimalist design is actually a massive evolutionary advantage. They have this incredibly effective toolkit: a tough cell wall for structure, a selective outer membrane, little protein factories called ribosomes, and sometimes tails for getting around. This simple setup lets them reproduce at lightning speed, which is why they can adapt so quickly and dominate basically every environment on our planet. All right, we've met the super efficient minimalist. Now let's turn to its counterpart, the eukaryote. If the prokaryote is the minimalist, the eukaryote is the complex, organized, and ambitious builder. And the difference is just night and day. Eukaryotic cells, which actually evolved from prokaryotes, are way bigger and much more organized. They're packed with all those specialized compartments, the organelles, and each one has a very specific job to do. Their DNA is neatly packaged into multiple, linear chromosomes. And all this organization is what allows them to be the building blocks for every plant, animal, fungus, and protist, including us. And the star of the whole eukaryotic show is, without a doubt, the nucleus. This is the real deal. It's a true organelle with a protective membrane, and it acts as the cell's command center. It protects the precious DNA and directs all the cell's activities. So if the nucleus is the command center, then the mitochondria, well, these are the powerhouses. You've probably heard that before, and it's absolutely true. These amazing little organelles are dedicated to churning out huge amounts of energy, called ATP, and it's that massive energy supply that really fuels all the complex stuff that eukaryotic cells get up to. The eukaryotic toolkit is like a miniature bustling city. You've got the endoplasmic reticulum and the Golgi apparatus acting like a manufacturing and shipping department.
There's a whole internal highway system called the cytoskeleton that provides shape and support, and then you have lysosomes, which are basically the city's recycling center. It's this incredible division of labor that allows for specialization and ultimately lets these cells team up to build huge, complex, multicellular organisms.
All right, we've met the players. We know what they're about. So now, it is time for the ultimate showdown. Let's put these two blueprints right next to each other and really see the differences, head to head. Let's run down the core features. Ready? Nucleus? Nope for prokaryotes, yes for eukaryotes. Chromosomes? A single circle versus multiple lines. Size? Prokaryotes are tiny. Eukaryotes are much, much bigger. And what about those power plants, the mitochondria? Absent versus present. A clean sweep so far for complexity.
And the hits keep coming when we look at their internal machinery. An internal skeleton for shape? No for prokaryotes, yes for eukaryotes. Their protein factories, the ribosomes? Smaller versus bigger. Reproduction? Simple splitting versus a mix of asexual and complex sexual reproduction. And all of this leads to the biggest difference of all. Prokaryotes are only single-celled organisms, but eukaryotes, they have the toolkit to build massive multicellular life.
So what's the final verdict here? Who's the winner? Well, the amazing thing is, they both win. These are two incredibly successful strategies for life. Prokaryotes, with their sheer genius for simplicity and speed, are so ridiculously numerous, they actually make up most of the living stuff, the biomass on Earth. They're the invisible rulers of our planet. Eukaryotes, on the other hand, with their organized complexity, are the architects. They build the large-scale life that we see all around us every single day. And that leaves us with this one last, kind of mind-bending thought. If the simple, efficient prokaryote design was so incredibly successful, I mean, it dominated the entire planet for billions of years, then why? Why did life even bother to evolve the complex, compartmentalized, and super energy-hungry eukaryote in the first place? Now that's a question that gets right to the very engine of evolution itself. Definitely something to chew on.